Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, DJ QMacro. Part two of maybe a two-part series. Might extend into a three-part series. Welcome. Thanks all so much for joining. Welcome to Helmut in Braunschweig, in Brunswick, in Germany, and welcome everybody. In fact, I've got a notification. It's a notification that I've just gone live. That's helpful. I'm also going to try. I'm trying a different angle, a slightly jaunty angle on the old camera front. Not because I'm being creative, but partly because, for some strange reason, since the latest macOS upgrade, my MacBook Pro isn't able to sort of speak to the camera, the USB-C power, connected camera, if it's through a USB hub. So I've got to connect it directly, which means I've got to have it over there. And so it's basically the cable's not long enough to have the camera in the middle, which is normally there. So I'm going to, try out this sort of creative solution, which is just go, hey, jaunty angle. Welcome to two very special people. I mean, you're all special, obviously. Two very special people. In the chat, thanks for saying hello. Good morning to Rui Nogueira and to Christian Lechner as well. So Rui and Christian are two of the lovely people in the team behind this pair of repos that we've been talking about, behind the BTP Service Metadata repo, the one that we're going to be talking about a bit more today, but also behind the BTP Setup Automator. So thanks for coming by. So because we've got Rui and Christian in the chat, good morning, Mark. Hello, is that how you pronounce that word? Hellution. Then we can ask all sorts of questions, and I'm rubbish, so I can't answer any questions. So I can just divert them to Rui and Christian. So good morning, Gökhan. Good morning. Let's dive in. Let me just switch to the main scene, and I've got just a bit of a reminder of what we did last week. And by the way, let me know if the camera's working for you and everything. I think the jaunty angle means that I'm sort of, when I'm typing stuff, I'm looking more at the screen, my screen behind me, whatever. Who knows? Anyway, right, so last Friday, we had an initial look at the BTP Service Metadata project. It's a repo on GitHub, and here is the link to the previous video. So in fact, let me just put that in the chat as well. Where's my chat? There. Thank you, Rui. Setup is perfect. There's the chat there. So that's the link to the previous one. So if you want to go back and watch the last week's episode, it's got all sorts of links to the project repository, to specifically the metadata exploration part of the project repository, which we're going to be concentrating on very shortly. There's Rui's blog post that announced it, through all sorts of links, and then we just sort of had an initial look at some of the metadata. Okay, in fact, there was a great question about CSV. I can't remember who asked it. So we had a final, right at the very end, we had a go at using JQ to produce CSV from the inventory data. So that's what we did last week. So this week, let me just close that. I think, this week, I want to explore a little bit further. Again, please keep me honest. I don't want to go mad. I don't want to go crazy fast, because I think to many of us, and let me know in the chat as well, to many of us, JQ might be quite a new language. And again, this is not all about JQ. We've got in the repo, in the metadata exploration part of the repo, what we've done is put in a little bit of JavaScript as well, which we probably get on to looking at next week. Okay, if you feel more comfortable with JavaScript. But I think many folks would agree that if you're going to manipulate a specific language or a specific format, then a language that deals and is designed for, built for that format is, a super powerful advantage to have. So we're going to look a little bit more at JQ, just still more gentle steps. And by looking at JQ, we'll also get to know a little bit better, get a feel for what the metadata brings us. So I put a link to this service metadata in the chat earlier. Let me put that in again, actually. There we go. That's a super important link there. And yeah, we got a nice little description here. The team is looking for feedback. They've already had some brilliant feedback. I think there's a couple of issues there. For example, you can have a look at feedback is via issues, okay? And there's a link to the related BTP Setup Automator project. But what I want to concentrate on is this section. Oh, by the way, and I was speaking to Christian this morning because I noticed in there we also had the developer directory, and the developer directory, as in, this is a directory of metadata files that are sort of focused on, designed for the consumption by developers, right? So we saw all the files there, ABAP solution, ABAP, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Now, as of yesterday, well, I mean, there was an automated fetch. Okay, as you know, this metadata is built programmatically and automatically, and they're constantly looking to expand the data that's available. And one of the questions was, can we get pricing information? That's not there at the moment, but there's now a purchaser persona, right? Purchaser persona. Thank you, Rui. Since yesterday morning. So let's have a look at that. Oh, what a surprise! All the same files there, which is good, right? We want the same files. We want a predictability of the actual individual, let's call them atoms, right, within the metadata directories. But this is more purchaser specific. If we like, I'm just going to pick the random one for the first one. And we see here that we have, from a purchaser persona perspective, not only, and we'll just explore this in a little bit more slower detail in a minute, not only the name and the display and all the sort of the top level metadata stuff and the service plans, but also, in fact, let me go into, no, I'll just do it, but also material number mappings where available. I think it's fair to say that in any given large, complex back-end collection of organizations, like you might find in SAP, for example, there are different levels of completeness in terms of the actual data about the services and applications and things that people are building. Okay, fine. So as we progress, this metadata is going to be exposing that information, but also helpful to us as well. It will sort of gently prompt those teams to start making available that metadata. So for example, here, there are currently no material number mappings, but that will come, right? But really excitingly, we have certifications as well. So for example, C5, I think is a cloud security certification. Remind me, keep me lean and clean here. I think C5 is a cloud certification. ISO, of course, all these different standards here. I have no idea. What's that? ISO 27018. No clue. Oh, more security techniques. Okay, cool. Okay, so this here is all about the certifications that this particular offering, this particular resource on SAP BTP, the ABAP solution resource, offers. Okay, so that's that. So have a look at or have a think about the fact that there's now a second persona. But let's switch to why is this metadata static and not provided via OData service? That's a good question, Mark. Is OData overkill for this? I think one of the reasons, and I think I'll let Rui and Christian, of course, also chime in. Good morning, Javier. Good morning. Chime in here, but I think maybe an OData front end to this might be a nice thing. But I quite like the fact that it's statically generated. There's no moving parts. So because things, while they may grow over time, suddenly we've got the material number mappings for certain services and everything. The actual metadata is sort of well formed and, well, I'm going to use the word again, static, right? So that's a really good question though. I never even considered that. Maybe we could have a little project to stick an OData front end on that so you could query it. In fact, maybe that is it's helpful to think about that in terms of the answer, i.e. OData as a protocol will allow another way of querying this data. So in my brain, I think I'm thinking of this data more of something at the persistence layer. If you think about, the Cloud Application Programming Model, for example, CAP, this data and what we're looking at and what we're playing with is stuff that we find at the persistence layer. Whereas an OData service is built up on top of that at the service layer. Oh, my laptop keeps on going to sleep. I've got my chat thing there. What's going on there? Let me just, the chat's gone. Oh, maybe if I press the screen. I don't know. The chat's gone. But anyway, let me just fix the chat there. There we go. Oh yeah, Ruby says, we wanted to keep the output clean and easy to consume as well as for developers who might not be familiar with OData. There we go. So what's going on here with this? Let me just show you. There's my extra laptop. There, got my extra laptop with the chat large so I can see what's going on. So let me put it that way maybe so I can keep pressing the key. I don't know why it's going to sleep. Maybe it's not getting enough power because I've got it plugged in through a stupid little plug. Anyway, right, so let's go across to here. In fact, let me bring across the service metadata. There we go. So Ruby says we are focusing on data quality and providing the metadata in the first place. Yes, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But it's a very, very good question. Very good challenge, Mark. But I do believe what I've just said. Sometimes I say things that I don't really believe what I say. But I do believe that the metadata that we're talking about here is at the persistence layer. And then you might have an OData service. You might have, shock horror, a GraphQL service on top. No. Who wants that? Not me. Okay, so in here we've got metadata exploration. That's linked here. You do not know where to start, need some inspiration, then this section could be of interest to you. And that's where we were looking last week. Okay, so here's a quick introduction to just some JSON focused tools. And we had a look at the inventory. Okay, so let me just bring that to this side here. So we've got the inventory exploration, and what we did, where are we here? Where are we here? We're in the metadata exploration. We run this little script, which is in entries by category. Let me just show you. I'm not going to just dive straight in. Let me have a look here. Entries by category. We can see here we've got running JQ. We're running this particular file, so the JQ filter itself. Entries by category, which we'll look at. Well, it's that's the entries by category script here, okay? And then we're pointing JQ with this filter at all the files in the metadata directory. Well, in fact, sorry, no, in the inventory JSON, okay? So we're pointing it at, where is it? V0 inventory. That's where we're pointing it at this thing here. And as you can see, it's just a flat array of individual objects. Okay, so let's just have a bit of a reminder of where we left off, a bit of a very, very gentle warm-up. So let me go here, and what I've got, I'm using a terminal file manager, obviously, and I've got little keyboard shortcuts to say, well, JSON, and I've got different ways of interacting with JSON. So I can say JI, for example, down here, view JSON with interactive JQ. Well, there's that, JI there. Okay, so I've loaded the inventory.json in there, and if I say, for example, and this is now writing JQ in the filter length, that'll tell us there are 177 objects in there. I could say, for example, map technical ID, and we get a list of all the, we were mapping over, maps over an array, and we're saying, well, just give us the value of the technical ID property. Remember that dot, if we say JQ dot and then a JSON file, it will print it. But the dot really is just spit out whatever you've got wherever you are in the sort of, JSON cursor idea, right? So we're doing that, for example. So what we can also do is we can say map technical ID, and then we can say map something technical ID, right? Okay, so we can start to see how we can build up or reformulate something, right? Or we could even say, and this is what we looked at last time, the shorthand for technical ID dot technical ID, i.e. I want a static property name, technical ID, right? But the value of that property should be, so that is shorthand for technical ID, okay? So that's why, oh, hello Marcus. Good morning, Marcus. I would love to see a complete tour on your shell configuration, aliases and tools. Good morning, by the way. Good morning to you, Marcus. So yeah, you know, a couple of years ago when we were doing live streams, I think we did some on Wednesdays as well, sort of where we had Wednesdays reserved for sort of slightly off-piste, slightly sort of, you know, background material. So maybe if anybody else is interested, let me know in the chat here or in the comments to the video and everything, or on Twitter or Mastodon. Oh my goodness. You know, whether you would be interested in like a, you know, as Marcus says, a complete tour on shell configuration. Okay, so we've got that thing. That's why we can say, and if you just look above my head there, that's why we can say map, and then we'll create an object. I'm going to, you know, I like in JavaScript, I like calling things in curly brackets maps because of other historical reasons. But I'm going to call them objects. Okay, so we've got arrays there, we've got objects. So there, I'm creating, you know, an empty object for every entry there. So that should also be 477, right? So that's why we can say here display name. There we go, display name, and also comma category. Okay, so that's not what this first bit does. If I highlight that, can I highlight that there? We've done that bit. Okay. Is this? Let me know in the chat. Is this too easy? Is this too many baby steps, or is this you know, is this an introduction or reintroduction useful? Hey Santiago, good morning. Then we can say, let's go across here. Then we can say group by. By the way, Chrome JQ manual. If you look at the JQ manual, you can go down here and have a look, for example, at all the different functions and filters and so on. So let me go back here and paste that in as well. There's the JQ manual. I mean, I think there's a link to JQ in that first video as well. But anyway, so there's the JQ manual. Group by, is this, maybe, let me know if this goes too small. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so we can see a little bit more, okay? Let me know if that's still okay from a font size perspective. We're going to group by, and what are we going to group by? Well, we could group by category, for example. You know, category. So now notice that when I'll just put a comment mark in here to sort of comment out the type to group by, just to go back to where we were just with the map. And we can see here we've got an array of objects. Okay, we can actually go up here and have a look all the way down there, down to the bottom. Okay. Now if I get rid of a comma, now what we've done is we've created an array of arrays. So if we look down here, we can see, for example, there we've got an array inside the array, and that array just so happens that they're all application. Strange that, because all application. But then we get the end of that array. Then we get a new array with all the objects in there that've got category equal to environment, for example, right? It's grouped by that one, and then we get that one. Okay, so that's what the group by does. Okay, and then finally we've got an array of arrays, so we can just map over those, right? Again, why does this keep going? The screen keeps going off anyway. So then we can. That was that bit there. So we've done that, and now all we're going to do is we're going to say map. Oops, map, and we're going to create something. But look, you know, we're creating. You know, I've created this empty object. We're mapping over the grouped by things. But why have we only got 3 now? Because the group by array, the result of the group by produces an array of 3 things. What 3 things? An array of 3 arrays. So if I say, for example, map length, we can see, I think we saw this last week, right? I can see that the first item, the first element of the outer array that we're mapping over has 53 things in it, 53 objects in it. That's 53 applications. The second one has got 2. Those are the 2 environment ones. And the third one, the rest of them are all the services, right? So we can start to think about the fact that we're now mapping over each of these individual things here. And what we want is the category. So we can say map first.category Okay, but we can also say what we're doing here. We're creating another object, aren't we? So let's create the object first.category. Let's just do that. Yeah, there we go. X, for example. But we actually want the first category, the category itself, as the actual key, right? As the key of the thing, as a property name. And then we can say, as it says here, well, we've got the display name. So let's say dot display name length. Put in brackets there so it doesn't get confused what's going on here. Display length. Display name. Have we got display name? First.category. Let's just do that again. What's going on? Display name. First.category 1, for example. But we could say dot display. Oh no, let's do this. Map name, just like that. There we go. Display name. We should be able to say, oh, of course, display name. I'm not sure. Can I index array with string? Oh, it's an array, isn't it? Never mind. Let's not even go there. Right. So we can say here, map display. Not sure what it was I'm trying to do there. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, so that's a nice gentle introduction. If we run that, in fact, if we go back to the metadata explorations, and if we run that, what is it called? Entries by category. Entries by category. You can bring this into you can clone the repo and run this exactly like that. Entries by category. By the way, if you haven't got JQ installed, of course, as we did last week, we looked at the BTP setup automator. We created a container image and we ran the container image and we got access to JQ and IJQ. So you do that in there. Okay, so I suggest we start slowly and pick the next one. Okay, so here we go, and you can see these are all sort of headlined here. What are all the regions anyway? So I would suggest that we start looking at the actual metadata files and get a better feel through working through this one, get a better feel for, again, the structure of these files. So if I go across to here, let's have a look up here and say v0, let's pick one, pick a random one, right at the bottom, xsua.json. Let's have a quick look at that. In fact, let's use fx to explore it. Okay, fx is another JSON tool which is just really nice. So close, open, etc. So for every resource, by the way, am I still going on? Yes, for every resource, yeah, that's okay, that's good. For every resource, we have the same structure in the developer persona. In fact, why don't we just go back out and go into the purchaser persona and have a look at the difference. Not in edit, I want to browse it. No, I want to JEpit. There we go. We get these certifications there, and in the service plans, we get currently a material number mappings, which is empty, but currently empty, but we get that. Okay, but let's go back to the developer stuff. Okay, that's what we're interested in. So if we go to the developer, go to there and have a look at that. JF, there we go. So we've got the name, display name, description, icon, yeah, very interesting. Then we have the support components, okay, which we looked at very briefly last week. And we have links to documentation. In fact, let's just expand all of those. You can see those there, all the links to documentation and specifications and blog posts and all sorts of learning material. But the most important, maybe the most interesting, are the service plans. So for a given metadata resource, I'm going to use the generic term resource. By the way, Rui and Christian, keep me honest here if I'm saying nonsense, talking nonsense. Then, or if there's anything you want to add, then just shout on the chat. So for every resource, whether that's an application resource that you subscribe to, or a service resource, or an environment resource, you have service plans, okay? And here you can see that the XSUA resource has 4 service plans. I'm going to explode them all first. No, in fact, let's explode one at a time. So there we go. We got, let's explode this last one there. So we have a service plan called Space, and it's called Space. It's a service. Now notice that the category of the thing, of the resource XSUA, is at the service plan level. Okay, just how it is. We've got a description. We've got a couple of Boolean properties here. If there's a schema available in the back end for this particular resource, then fine, the schema's added there. I think there are some schemas. Not for everything though, thanks Rui. But I think the most important thing to know is that we have data centers as well. Okay, so within a service plan space, for example, we have the data centers, the regions where that service plan is available. And the data centers property is an array of an object, of objects, and each object is very simple. It's just got two properties, a name and a region. Okay, so AP10, APAC, Australia, Sydney. Okay, go down here, random, I don't know, India, India in Mumbai, 30. Okay, so we have to think about this in terms of, you know, how we want to explore the resources, right? So again, just to rewind, for every given resource, it has a name and other things. It has a service plan property, which is an array of objects where each object represents a service plan. So Christian says, thank you, Christian, there are some schemas available where needed for instance creation. Perfect, yes. So when you need to specify some extra parameters when you're creating a service, for example, an instance of the service, then that schema is helpful for that. Exactly. We have for each service plan, we have a name and other bits and pieces, and then for each service plan, we have one or more data centers, right? So with that in mind, just to suspend that in our brains now, let's go back to here. Let's just get rid of all of this. In fact, we're in the wrong thing anyway, so let's get out of that. Go into developer. Now, what I also do here, we want to slurp in all of the files. So let me go here and select them all, and then I can say J, and again, you could do this with, well, in fact, you can do it, there we go, service plans, where is it? Service plans, did I not put a link there? Let me go to the top there. Services, what? Did I not put something there? Service plan, oh, wait, free subscription plans, enterprise category, list all regions, services by region. Oh well. Basically, what you want to have a look at is, you know, just running, you know, I'm going to slurp it in my file manager here, but this is how you slurp it. Slurp all the files, okay, then you specify the JQ filter, okay. So let's go back here, service plans. What are the service plans anyway? Let me just jump straight there. Regions, sorry, regions. So Rui says the information of the data centers is essential when you want to create a service instance, e.g. via the BTP CLI. If a service plan is not supported in the data center, you can't create an instance. Well said, Rui, thank you. So let's go here and slurp them all into IJQ, which again, if there's one thing you do today over a coffee break, just have a play with IJQ, look at an individual resource metadata file in the developer directory or the purchaser directory, or look at them all and slurp them all in and have a bit of a play. Okay, you know, you can't break anything, obviously. So when you slurp multiple resources into IJQ, it will bring them into an outer array. Let me just go back. In fact, let me show you. If I just open, let's deselect those. If I just open up one, the ABAP solution one, okay, you'll see that the topmost symbol here is an open curly bracket, an open brace, right? Which means that the resource metadata as a whole is an object. Okay, it makes sense, right? So every resource metadata file is an object. Let's look at another one, you know, ADS. Adobe, of course. If I look at that, again, it's an object. However, if I select them all and slurp them all in, of course, JQ or IJQ in this case is going to slurp them all in and present them to me as an array of objects. Okay, makes sense, right? More than one, you need an array. Okay, so that's what it does. I mean, actually, there's another argument to say, well, I want it as a stream, but let's not even go there. So what we can do here, let's work through this, okay? Because let me know, does this look like too scary? Does this look obvious? Let me know how you feel when you look at JQ like this. Let's just do this bit by bit. we can, for example, with the knowledge that we gained before, which is that each resource has a service plan array, and each service plan in that array has a data centers array, right? Given that, so first of all, let's do one thing, map of the service plans. So we get an array of arrays, okay, which makes sense. So in fact, why don't we say, first of all, length, 177. Now, I think we remember this from last week, but I know as well that there are about 170 something, 177 in this case, resource files. So if, in fact, oh, there we go, there, ls -1 word count line, 179, we got there, oh, did I, 179, oh, of course, 177 plus 178, 179, okay. I was thinking my fundamental understanding has completely come out of the window, but no, of course you have the current directory, the parent directory. So there were 177 resource files. There we go. Okay, so if we say map over the array and what we want to produce in that map, okay, if I just say map 1, we get 177 ones, right? Right, okay. But we could say map, well, in fact, map name. Let's do something simpler. So we get 177 name, in fact, length, 177, yeah, 177 names. Let us go up there and just show you. Go to the bottom. There we go, XSUA at the bottom. Fine. So if we put something in there, which is not a scalar property, like a string or something, like the name, but something that is an array, we get an array of arrays. We still get 177, right? Now, notice the difference between what we've got here and what we've got here. This thing here is a special, I mean, you know, when you look at it, it's sort of obvious at one level to your brain what it does. Oh, so Ruby's saying here, not Treasure Island, what's it called? You know, Holiday Island. I feel like being in my JSON happy place. So do I, Ruby. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. That's what you think when you see that. Brilliant. So what open square brackets, close square brackets will do? Well, we know, given that in many languages, square brackets represents an array, right? A list. And that's what it does. And what this in JQ, what that does is, in fact, let's get the right thing here. Array iterator. There we go. Array stroke object value iterator. If you use the running with the input 1, 2, 3, will produce the numbers as 3 separate results rather than as a single array. Now, examples. In fact, let's do this. This is a better example. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, a literal array, but I could say, pipe that into the thing, right? But then expand it. Look at the difference. We go from an array of 5 things to those 5 things exploded. And everything downstream, pipe-wise, from that explosion will run for everything that's been exploded, every single item that's been exploded, okay? So does that make sense? So if we say map service plans, we get 177 things. But if we say map service plans and then say, but exploded, flattened out, and taken sort of out of the array context, we get how many? 329. What's that? It's more than 177. So clearly, you know, it's done something different. What it's done, in fact, let's say first dot. Well, let's take the first one, right? The first just says give us the first element of the array, and then we can say map service plans. No, what are we doing? Sorry, first dot service plans. Map, not map. First service plans, right? And we get 1. Okay, there's only 1. Okay, let's go for, I don't know, a random one. The second one, service plan. Oh, V0, messed up there, didn't I? Let's go into there, do that again, VJS. In fact, why don't we do this? Map service plans length. What? Map service plans. What? Have I only got one in there? What's going on? Oh, I didn't select them all, that's why. There we go, that's why. JS. Oh, we have one in there. Let's do that again. Map service plans length. There we go, 107. But if we say here, first map service plans string. Oh, sorry. The map first dot service plans. There we go. We get one. But if we say here, wow, there you go. What am I trying to do here? Map. There we go. Okay. So the second resource in the array has got 5 service plans. Okay. In fact, why do we do that and say add 329? 329. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes. So let's just do that. So if we have the second one, which is the 1th, okay, dot service plans length, we get 5. So there are 5 service plans in the service plan array for the what is it? For the ABAP resource. Okay. So the 329. Let's go back here. So map service plans like that. The 329 is basically the collection of all the service plans for all the resources. Some resources will have one service plan, like the ABAP one. Some resources, like the ABAP solution resource, will have more than one service plan. So when you add them all up, right, you get 329. Now, let's go one step further. Remember, within the service plans array, we have various number of properties with scalar values, but we also have a data centers property, which is itself an array of objects, which are the regions, you know, right? So let's go back here again and say data centers. So now we have an array of arrays. If we look at the length of that, we still get 329 because we're still basically saying just give me an array of the data centers. But if we explode the data centers as well, we get 3,283. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there are 3,283 data centers, at least I don't think it means that. That means that if you take all the data centers from all the service plans and just put them in a big long list, of course you're going to get duplicates because this service is available in this data center and this service is available also in this data center, then that data center is going to be there twice at least, right? If you have all of those in a list, there are 3,000 and something. But now let's have a look. Let's go up there and have a look. There's AP10, AP11, AP12. Let's go down. I have no idea. You know, JP, AP10. There's AP10 again. So this is just a collection of all of them. Okay, so now we want to sort of reduce that down. We want to just find the unique ones, right? So, and that's what this next bit is, unique. So we could say here, for example, unique by something, okay? And basically what the unique by takes is a property reference, really, of the thing you want to be unique. So, you know, region and name, I think they're all sort of, you know, equally balanced. So let's go for region, dot region, because that's more of a non-human string thing. Is that even a phrase? Region. So now that display changes. How many have we got? 33. Okay, so there are 33 unique regions across all of the regions, the data centers, for all of the service plans, for all of the resources. Are you still with me, by the way? Are you still with me? Oh yes, Jason, happy place, that's good. Okay, fine. So let's have a look at that. So we've got those, and all we have to do then is to say, well, let's just explode. We know what this does now. This sort of explodes the thing that we've got. So if you say, if we do that and pipe it into dot, is exactly the same, right? It's just, but we need to do that. I mean, I suppose we could just do that, right? But that, I think that's for people just coming to JQ is a little bit sort of hard on the brain. So this is why I've written it out. Pipe it into. So as soon as you pipe, you sort of have to start from a reference of something. So you could say here that, or let's just pipe it into dot and then explode those things. Now watch the difference. When you have this array of objects here, as soon as I put the open brackets, close brackets, notice that effectively that will move up. It will explode all these objects into just a flat list of objects outside of an array, okay, a stream of objects. There we go. So now the outer array, open brackets, close brackets, are gone because we said bam, 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 just give me each one each time. Right? But so now if we do length, it doesn't make sense in terms of how many things are in the array. What we're saying is we're calling length on every single object in the stream. So length in this case is going to be 2. There are 2 properties. Okay, so length doesn't just work on arrays, it works on objects. And if you apply length to an object, it'll give you the number of properties in that object, right? It makes sort of sense. Do what I mean. I think that's philosophically from Perl, right? Do you think Perl programs here? Anyway, okay, so we do that. That's where we are so far. And now, I mean, we don't have to sort of explode it. We could say, let's do that, right? We could just go straight. We could leave this bit out and just create. We could just create a list of arrays that represented each of these things. I mean, in that array, we could say .region, .name. Okay. But because the purpose of this thing here is to produce some tab separated output, the tab separate, if I did this now, and send that through the sort of tab separated output formatter, right? It's not going to work because the tab separate, it says here actually, array is not valid in a CSV row, a CSV, TSV, let's call the whole thing off. What's that song? You say potato, I say tomato. I don't know what's going on with my brain. But we could say, for example, here, map TSV, but then we'd get an array of tab separated value records, which we don't want. We don't want to explode it so it's flat when it comes out of the command on the command line in the shell. So we could say then that, but that just to me feels a bit weird. So this is why we're saying here, unit by region, explode them here, right? And then pipe that into the creation of an array, and then pass that and format it into TSV. There we go. Now that doesn't look like TSV, obviously, because it's got some weird characters, but look, /t tab. So if we run that now, there we go, we get that. Now, if we wanted to really have tab separated, we say JQ minus R, which is short for minus raw output, as in don't try and produce JSON. JQ by default will try and produce JSON wherever it can, and of course each one of these records, it will produce a stream of JSON values, but a valid JSON value is just a string, right? True is a valid JSON value, false is a valid JSON value, 42 is a valid JSON value, and a string like that, AE1 tab UAE Dubai, is also a valid JSON value. So we could say that, and then say up here, go down here, let's copy that, and then read in slurp, where is it? V0 developer, where are we right now? Oh yeah, there we go, developer star.json. Is that going to work? There we go. So we get the raw output, which is without the open and closed double quotes surrounding it. Then we get the value of the region. because we've said format it as tab separated, then we get a tab, and then we get the name. So we can feed that. Let's go and just join that up there. Let's go back here and get rid of that. I don't like that. That's new line there. There we go. And then we can feed that into FZF, for example. Right, just give us a Europe. Oh yeah, just choose. Yes, and there we go. That. Okay. So far so good. We got 15 minutes. We're going to do another one. Shall we do another one? Do one more, and then next week we'll move on to parsing this and sort of exploring it with JavaScript. Okay, because we've got a little bit of JavaScript at the bottom here, as I think I mentioned. Services with most plans. But we'll do JavaScript next week. So why don't we choose? Let's choose another one. Schema availability. We've got. Ooh, this is quite good. Quite interesting. Is it too long for us to do? That's definitely too long for us to do. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, let's do that one. So let's. There we go. So applications with a free subscription plan. And I think by the time we've done this one, and by the time it's 9 o'clock, top of the hour, I think we'll have gained a good understanding of how each metadata file feels. Okay, what sort of data is in there. So you're all very quiet, by the way. Have you all disappeared? Has this scared you off, or is this making you scratch your heads? Let me know in the chat if you've played around with any of these metadata files and done anything with them already. Rui and Christian and I would very much like to know. So let's do this now. Let's go across to here. Do we need that again? No, we don't need that. We don't need that. Let's just clear everything out. There we go. Fine. Let's go into the V0 developer and go into there, select them all, and bring them in again. There we go. Rui, we are carefully. I like the use of the adjective carefully. Sorry, not adjective, adverb. Carefully. Okay, so we know what map does. I love the tabbed output you have shown. Ah, yes. So, yeah. So we don't have to just because the metadata is in JSON format. That doesn't mean to say that whatever we produce from it is going to be JSON, right? And I think a little bit tells me that Rui has, and also I also have an example of producing documentation from this metadata. So Rui, if you want to share I think you've already got something you can share. If you haven't, then that's cool. We'll share another time. But Rui's done some awesome work on producing documentation, or Rui and Christian and the team. I don't know. So yeah, share that. Please feel free to share. Oh, if you get a problem pasting the URLs, I'll share it later in the show notes in the description of the video. Because I'm not sure whether YouTube allows people to put URLs in the chat. I don't know. Anyway, so we know what map does. But here now, I think we've used select before. So why don't we do a simple select first of all, rather than this weird sort of thing that's inside that select there. But you can get an idea of what that does, right? Just even reading it, you can get an idea. So if we say map, sometimes I do that to say, is this saying, what's that thing there, length 177. So yeah, okay, we've got 177 resources, we're mapping over them. So if I say category, service plans, category is part of the service plan. So if I say map display name, for example, there we go, we get the display name. Fine. So far so good. Good morning, Murat, and welcome, Murat. Good morning. I like sunshine. It's very, very well. It was very foggy this morning here, very dark and cold and foggy. Anyway, so we'll map. Now, if we say select, and map, a select within a map is a very common idiom in JQ, and it's effectively a filter. If I say, for example, map select dot name, this is a stupid example, right? Name contain, well, not a stupid example, contains ABAP. Okay, so we've now said only allow through the map, throw away the things that don't comply with this condition. Now, how many have we got? Length. We've got 3. Okay, so we could say here even name. Right. So ABAP solution, ABAP and ABAP CP cloud platform, I guess. Web router. So we can use a combination of map and select to reduce the set of metadata resources in our slurped array. So all we want to do really is now think about this line here. So this is the condition. If I say here, here's another stupid example, just so we can just get used to this. Select dot name length is greater than or less than 5. Okay, and then we'll have here dot name. What are the names? So there we go. There are all the. Well, in fact, let's just have equals 4, right? I don't know why I'm doing this, but you know, there we go. There's all our resources where the actual name of the resource is a 4-character name, right? Fine, useless, but it gets us a feeling of, you know, what the thing inside the brackets of the select is. It's just a condition, okay? And you have access to, as always, the thing dot. You can say dot. You could even say, you know, banana length 4, nothing. But I could say, you know, date. Why did I put date? Date is like still a fruit. I always think of fruit. Bananas, apples, date. The date is a fruit as well as date. A, B, C, D. There we go. Right. So we get them all because they all, you know, that condition is true for each one time, because we're not really looking at anything in the actual thing we're mapping over. So let's do something different. Let's do this. Map select any. Now, any is that whole thing there. And any, there are 2 forms of any. If I find here any, there are 2 forms. And we could use either form really, but the filter any takes as input an array of Boolean values and produces true as output if any of the elements of the array are true. Okay. But the any generator a semicolon separates different arguments when you're passing arguments to a function that takes parameters, right? Basically any, and this is written in JQ parlance documentation. This particular version of the function is written as any/2 because it takes 2 parameters, right? That form applies the given condition to all the outputs of the given generator, right? So if you look at an example here, oh great, there's no JQ any, input true, false, any. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter. So given that description, I think the JQ documentation could do with a few more good examples here. Given that description, we could say any of the there we go, links. I've no idea, right? Links, links. Oops. Dot links. And then that will generate. Oh, there we go. True. That's going to produce them all. You know, I'm just doing a simple thing here. Well, true is just going to return true. It's going to return true, which means it's passed, and therefore any is like yes. We could say links, and then where, for example, what have we got? Documentation, text documentation, classification documentation. Let's have a look at the service. What else have we got here? Links. I don't know. Maybe I'm choosing a bad example here, but let's just go back down there and say dot text equals documentation. There we go. Actually, probably all of the links have documentation, but there's an example of where it's going through and sort of expanding. What was it called? What did JQ call it? A generator, given to all the outputs of the given generator. Okay, so that there is the generator. You know, and remember the open close square brackets, it just says poof, explode this array of things into its individual sort of, you know, a stream of components, a stream of things. So now we can say any, what do we have? Service plans here. Oh, any service plans any. Okay, fine. And finally, we can just add the condition now. So now we're adding the condition which gets applied to all the outputs. So we could say in the service plans where, for example, the dot is free. Oh, actually, is free. There we go. Is free. Now, is free. That we should only have. There is free true. Is free true. In fact, why don't we do this? Right. Let's have. How many get? 99. There are 99 resources in all of the resources on SAP BTP where we have a free service plan. However, what we want, we could do this here, right? Name, map, name, name. What are the names? There we go. Ah, that's rubbish. Yeah, name, like that. So all of those have free service plans, but also we want to know whether that thing is an application, right? So we could say here map name, and then also let's just we'll put it in array because we need to have more than one thing. But on name, and then first dot service service plans dot first dot what's it called, category. What's going on here? Service plans. Let's have this. Let's do this. Right. There we go. Category. So we get the list. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Service plans first dot category. Service plans. What's going on? Why cannot index string with number? Service plans. Oh, forget that. My brain's not working. Service plans. The first one, category. Right. So wait. Of course. Is it first? Service plans. I thought first was syntactic sugar for this, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Service plans dot category. There we go. So now we get that. But what we want is not only all the services and the maybe environment instances as well, environments, but also we want to add that to the condition. I'm not getting distracted there. So we want is free and the category equals application. There we go. And in fact, we've got the same thing, the same output, and we get all those. In fact, let's just, there we go. And that should be the same as that. There we go. Yeah, so free subscription plans. So we just map over the results of that. So let's just do that. You can see that there. We just filtered down, let's go back to the start. We filtered down all the resources down to just the ones where, right, any of the service plans has a property is free, which is true, which is Boolean, but also the category of the service plan is going to be application. Okay, so that's that. We can run again. We can run that free subscription plans. There, free subscription plans. Where is it? What? Oh, metadata explanation. Free. There. So all these things that we've gone through are in the repo, and that's it. So I think we've done enough, JQ. I don't know. Let me know in the chat before you go whether that was useful, and whether you think it would be okay for us to do some JavaScript next week. Basically, by in the Node.js REPL, what we've got is a little script for you which you can load, and then you have this constant m, which refers effectively to the same sort of thing. This idea of an array of slurped objects where each object is a resource. Okay, so we can start to do that sort of thing. Map x, where sort of an anonymous function there. A fat arrow function, same sort of thing. Okay, so Santiago says, many things to try in JQ. Excellent. Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to leave it there. It's 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great Friday. Give the service metadata repo a star. Also jump over to the setup automated repo, which is linked. Give that a star as well. Okay, so yeah, thanks very much for watching and see you next Friday. Bye.